Good evening. My name is Neil Chassor. I'm head of school here at the LSA, and I'm joined by
Samantha Hardingham, academic director at the LSA. Hi, everybody.
So what we want to do with this session is really just talk you through the admissions process, how you apply to the LSA, what the kind of mechanics are, what the steps are in the process. We're going to run through a fairly brief presentation, and then at the end we'll take any questions from those who are with us live on Zoom. The first thing I want to emphasize is that if you've got any questions or issues at any point during the application process, please email admissions@the-lsa.org. That's your one-stop shop for any questions, any problems, any issues throughout the admissions process from now basically until just before hopefully you come and join us at the start of next academic year. We also have a WhatsApp account, and the number is there. It's a WhatsApp business account that's monitored during business hours and on working days, and we aim to get back to you within 48 hours. If you've got any queries, do feel free to WhatsApp us as well as email us. So, as I say, the purpose of this evening is really to talk about the admissions process. I'm assuming that by joining this Zoom, you already know what an incredible program we have at Part 2. It's all set out on our website, the-lsa.org, and you can find it under Programs, and there's a link direct from the homepage. That sets out the structure of the program across first year and second year. It tells you a little bit about our ethos, the way that we like to teach. If you want to know more about the program, and in particular, if you want to hear perspectives from our current students, from alumni, and from our faculty, I'd strongly encourage you to sign up to one of our open evenings on the 7th of December and on the 18th of January, or to participate in one of our open studio events, also on the 7th of December in the daytime and the 25th of January. Do you want to say a little bit about how those will work, Sam?
Yeah, well, our open evenings will be run after studio hours, so from 6:30 in the evening. They are student-led events. We try to say as little as we can from a leadership point of view, give you an overview of the school, but certainly really an opportunity to meet students, hear about the program from them directly, and obviously come and meet faculty and us and ask any questions in the space, see some work. The open studios are daytime events. They are to be signed up for on Eventbrite. There are limited numbers, capacity for limited numbers of groups at certain times, but you can see us again sort of live and direct. The studios open, students either presenting work in reviews or working workshops. So it's just a slightly different nature of event. There won't be presentations in the open studios, but you can essentially be a fly on the wall.
Brilliant. But as I say, I assume that you are all here because you're chomping at the bit to get your applications in. I thought it might be worth just explaining our application cycles. The critical date is the 15th of January. We would really strongly recommend that you apply by the 15th of January. That's our early bird. If you do that, you've got a great chance of getting a place on the Part 2. You'll be at the front of the queue in the placement process. There are myriad advantages, I think, to making sure you get your application in by the 15th of January. If for whatever reason you can't or you don't, the other date deadlines are advertised here. We'll be advertising those more publicly after the closure of each cycle. You need to apply by 11:59 p.m. on the Sunday of those dates: 15th of January, 12th February, 12th March, 16th of April, 13th May. And I want you to focus your energies on the 15th of January. Those cycles are tight because what we want to do is make sure that you've submitted your application, we've processed it, we've invited you to interview, we've conducted the interview and made you an offer within a month. That's our guarantee. And certainly if you reach that 15th of January deadline, you will know within a month whether you've got a place to join us on the programme next year. So the deadline, as you can see, in week 1 of the cycle, so in the 15th of January cycle, 11:59 on the Sunday, we will process those applications between Monday and Wednesday of the second week, and we will select those portfolios we want to take through to interview. Those interviews will be happening on the Thursday and Friday of the 3rd week of the cycle. Successful interviewees will be notified probably on the same day, certainly by the end of that week 3. And then I've just included in week 4 that there is a deadline for the payment of your deposit, not within a week, but a month from the moment we've made you an offer. Okay, I'm very happy to take any questions about how that cycle works. But the key thing I wanted to emphasize to you guys here this evening is if you meet that submission deadline for your application, you will know actually within 3 weeks whether you have been successful and whether you have a place to join us. And then we will expect a deposit from you pretty swiftly after that, so that we can get you further into the admissions process on your way to registering and enrolling with us in September 2023. So, I'm going to talk through the stages of the admissions process. It's a 4-stage process. Stage 1 is to fill out our 2-stage online application form in line with the application cycles that I've just set out. Step 2 is the interview. If we take forward your application, we're going to invite you to an interview where we want to discuss your work and ambitions and a simple design exercise, the brief for which will be circulated if and when we invite you to interview. We'll then make you an offer. So if you're successful in an interview, we'll promptly issue you an offer. And if you accept, we're going to ask you, as I've mentioned, to pay a small deposit just to make sure we know that you're serious about coming. And then step 4 is to make sure you have a student placement, which is a condition of the program. We will connect you with a placement provider in our practice network if you are not already in a practice at which you want to stay for the student placement in year 1 of our program. We're going to talk you through each of those steps now. So step 1, application. So hopefully you're all familiar with our website, our new website. I hope much easier to navigate. What you're looking for is the big green button at the top there. That will take you to the admissions landing page, where you will find all the information about the admissions process published in our admissions handbook. You can find out, you can double check your eligibility and any requirements that we have, in particular around language requirements. You can find out about funding and finance, and there's a link there to details about the Part 2 program if you just want to double check any details about that. On the right-hand side of the page, you can see stage 1 of the application form. You can submit stage 1 of the application form at any time. In fact, I'd encourage you, if you haven't done so yet, to go onto our website as soon as this briefing is over and fill out stage 1 of the application form. You can see that all we're asking for at stage 1 is your name, your email address, a little bit about how you heard about us, and permission for us to keep in touch with you. If you do that, we'll make sure that you're alerted to any deadlines, any events for potential applicants coming up. It's a really useful thing just to make sure that you filled out that stage 1 of the application form. Once you've filled out stage 1, you'll come to stage 2 on the same page. It'll refresh, and it's a much longer form. So once you've got to stage 2, you need to have all the information for the application ready in order to submit. And we just want to take you through what that information is. Sam, do chip in at any point. There's some very basic personal information and contact details so that we can get hold of you. We ask you to confirm that you've understood our eligibility and other language skills requirements. We want you to just write very clearly what your employment and education experience is in part 1, in other words, and your experience in practice. You should have been in practice for a minimum of 12 months, having undertaken your part 1 before you come on to study your part 2 with us, and the names and contact details of your referees. We want 1 academic referee and 1 practice-based referee. And we will write to those referees, inviting them to fill out a structured response. All you need to do at this stage, and this is really important that you do this, is make sure that those referees whom you nominate on the form are aware that you've done so, and let them know that we will be in touch with them in due course once your application is submitted and processed. Okay?
The only other thing I would add is that you may be a part 1 currently in your work experience at the moment. You may not have completed your minimum of 12 months right now, but you are in that process, and your ambition, obviously things can change at times, but really your ambition is by the time you come to do your part 2, you will have had those 12 months under your belt. So this does not assume that you have already done 12 months by the point of making your application.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the critical thing is, by the time you notionally join us in September 2023, you will have completed at least 12 months in practice. Yeah. Thank you. Then there's a section called Statement of Purpose, and the Statement of Purpose is not a personal statement. It's much more directed than that. We really want to know a little bit about your motivation, a little bit about how you think about design, and a little bit more detail about that practice experience. So as I've written here, we want thoughtful and creative responses that tell us more about what you want to do through your part 2 study with us. So there is a field for you to tell us a little bit about your motivations. Why have you chosen us? What are your ambitions in fulfilling our program? A little bit about design, really asking you to reflect on how you do the work of design, right? To reflect methodologically. And we also want you to tell us a little bit about what you did in your part 1 thesis project, and how you went about it, what you did, what you learned from it. And then to tell us about your practice experience. We want to know 2 experiences which set out what you contributed. We want to know which was the practice in which you did it, what was the project, what were the RIBA plan of work stages you contributed to, and what did you add? And indeed, what did you learn from those experiences? For every single example you include about your part 1 thesis, about the contributions to practice projects, you need to make sure that those are illustrated and properly referenced in the portfolio. That's vital, because we will want to talk about that during the interview.
Absolutely clear for now, nothing more to add.
Excellent. The portfolio. So we don't want any more than 14 pages. So there'll be a title page, 9 pages, I think, outlining your undergraduate work. We would then like 2 to 4 pages on your practice experience. If you only use 2 pages on work experience, that will give you a little bit of room to talk about independent projects that you conducted. So perhaps outside of your formal industry experience, what else motivates you, gets you going? What have you been doing in the world of architecture, design, and the built environment? We're really keen to get that rounded picture of you. We don't want to be prescriptive about layout, but I will emphasize that to have a really clear and simple layout is vital. We get a lot of applications, a lot of portfolios to go through. We want you to put your best foot forward. So having your design work on one side and the text on the other, being really clear about what this is describing, when you did it, what exactly you did, but critically, what was your contribution? What's really important, first of all, for obvious reasons, that you don't present work as your own, which you didn't undertake directly. What we're much more interested in is what it is that you actually did, what it is that you actually learned.
Again, all I would add is that we are obviously looking for independent designers. You will express yourself in your portfolio in a very individual way. That is entirely for you to determine. We would not prescribe your portfolio in that sense. So please show your best work. Be selective about your best work. Do make it clear when you did that work, if it is your part 1 third year thesis, if it was a piece of work you did in first year, for instance, it may be, or when and what happened. It's really important. It just makes it easier for us to navigate that and not have to second guess it, or waste time asking you. Also, with that practice work, you will very evidently show projects, or maybe something of a project that you have not executed all by yourself. That is absolutely fine. But again, as Neil said, it really makes sure that you express the contribution, the part you have played in making that project happen or get to the stage that it has reached. That bit of annotation is really critical for us. And as I said, show your best work, best drawings, or even if they're not your best drawings, show us why, what you've learned from a particular kind of drawing, even if it isn't as perfect as you'd like it to be. I wouldn't expect it to be perfect at this stage.
I think that's really important. We love to see process. We don't just want to see polished work. Of course, we want to see what you come up with in particular over a sustained project like you will have done at your undergraduate, but to give us a sense of your process, your method, and to reflect critically on that method is a really surefire way of grabbing our attention. The other thing I would say is just be as lucid and as clear as possible. The clearer you are in the statement of purpose in the portfolio, the more we can discuss it in substance in the interview. If we have to spend lots of time clarifying, so you said it was this, and when did you do it, and so what were you really doing? Actually, it doesn't allow you to put your best foot forward. And that's what we want in the interview. We want you to have the very best opportunity to show what an amazing designer you can be, the ambitions that you want to fulfill to change the world, starting with joining us in your Part 2 program. That's what we want to see. We don't want to waste time having to check what it is that you actually did. So critical things from the statement of purpose: be creative and thoughtful, but clear. And projects that you reference in the statement of purpose need to be reflected in the portfolio. Okay. Right. Step 2 is the interview. I don't want to talk in great detail about the interview this evening. It'll be a 30-minute interview. We'll talk for about 10 minutes on your academic work. We'll talk for about 10 minutes on your practice experience. And as I mentioned, we will set a very simple design exercise with a clear allocation of time that you should spend on it. You will bring the results of that design exercise, or you will submit that in advance of the interview, and we would like to talk to you a little bit about that as part of the interview. So it's a really simple tripartite structure. In terms of who's in the room, there'll be an interview chair. That'll either be me or Sam. If you're really unlucky, it'll be both of us. We tend to have a member of faculty with us. We love to have a current student. We think that's really important as part of the admissions process. So current student on our Part 2 program. And then, of course, you, the applicant, will be there. You'll notice it is effectively in a circular formation. It's a conversation. It is not a panel. We're not there to trip you up. There are no trick questions. It's a conversation. And we want you to feel as calm and collected to celebrate your work. It's a really, I think, exciting moment for 3 people who have never seen your work before to take it seriously and engage with it critically, and for you to talk about it knowledgeably and with passion. Anything else about the interview setup?
No, the only other very important thing is always bring your portfolio with you to the interview. It has happened that has not come along with the candidate, so do make sure that if you are called to interview, do bring your portfolio. And
we love to see other kinds of artifacts that enliven and animate the work that you've done. That might be a model, it might be something else completely different. We're really open-minded about how you show show your work, how you do it, as clearly and I think as passionately as possible. So you've gone through the interview process, we've made you an offer, you're well on your way to joining us. After that, I think we like you to pay a deposit, as I say, just to make sure that you're deadly serious about joining us. That's vital for our planning. And then we want you to really engage with us. So there will be opportunities for you to come and see studio reviews if you haven't come to one of the Open Studio events. There are events as part of our practice program, talks, other types of events, networking events, etc. You're really welcome to come to those to get a sense of that thing which, as you know, really distinguishes us from all our competitors. We are utterly committed to and embedded in and oriented towards practice. And we also run vertical charrettes across both years in the Part 2. And we very much hope to make opportunities for prospective applicants, well, for offer holders by this stage, to come and join in that work, to get a sense of us, our studio spaces, our students, your colleagues, our faculty. We think that that's a really kind of useful way of keeping that engagement going as you lead up to enrolment. And of course, there's plenty of time for you to ask questions by emailing us. Admissions at the-lsa.org is always your first port of call. Someone will get back to you. Any questions you have about practicalities of joining the program, you're really welcome to drop us a line. And then the other thing, of course, which distinguishes us is that there is a requirement that you have a student placement that you undertake in year 1 of the program. That keeps you really closely connected to practice. A number of our modules are rooted in practice, as you may well by this stage know. And it also allows you to earn while you learn, which again, I don't need to tell you, is a really important part of our offer. It distinguishes us from really any other Part 2 postgraduate degree. So we have a practice network. It's now 200 strong. This graphic simply shows you the geographical spread across London. We've got everybody in the practice network, from Fosters and Rogers to specialist practices like Karakusevich Carson, David Chipperfield, you name it, they're in our network. It's an incredible network. The school is built with, by, and for that network. They provide resource and facilities for us. They teach for us. They lead research projects with us. It's absolutely vital to the LSA. And you securing a placement is a really significant part of preparing for your 2 years with us. There are effectively 2 routes to do that. Our preferred route is that if you're in a London practice and you're happy there, is that you stay there, put it very simply. There is a second route, which is the student placement process. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail about the student placement process this evening, but it is a 3-step process. There's an element of matchmaking. We provide a questionnaire both to you and to practice to get a sense of who's looking for what. You undertake a series of interviews. We are notified whether you've got through those interviews, and then we match you with a practice. Arrangements are confirmed. You sign a contract of employment with that practice, and away you go. What I want to say is this, and it's really critical. We will always support you in finding a placement process, but you must see through the process in the way that we set out once you've received an offer. If you don't, it makes it really difficult for us to support you in a measured, sensible way to make sure you've got a placement well in advance of beginning the program of study. So that's all I want to emphasize for now, but Sam may have other comments.
No, I think it's again, as Neil said, it's the 2 routes. Obviously, the route 2, where we are engaged in helping you to find the right match, is a slightly more complex process, although, you know, we've done it many times, so we know we have a very good success rate, highly good success rate. It really hinges on that beginning part of getting a very clear sense from you of the kind of practice you'd like to work with, and then helping to prepare you and your portfolio to go for those interviews if that's if you need that level of intervention. Many students don't, but we are there to help support you if you do.
Yeah, I think what I'd add is you are perfectly able at any point to find your own placement. You don't have to go through our matchmaking student placement process. And I want to emphasize that if you're in a practice that is not currently in our practice network, but they're happy for you to stay, you're happy for you to stay, that's fine. We'd love them to come and join us in the practice network, and we've got a process through which that can happen really simply for them and for you. I'm sure we'll come back to the placement process during questions and discussion that follows. Final thing, just to remind you and to emphasize, admissions at the-lsa.org is the single point of contact. Any questions about any element of the admissions process, from application cycle and application form through to student placement, goes to that email address. We will get back to you that way. Do not send it to info@ or press@ or admissions@ is your friend, and you can contact us via WhatsApp if you need to.